There's a moment, a silent, split-second decision you make when someone calls you out, accuses you, questions your worth, your character, your intent. And in that moment, the average person, trained from childhood, does what they've been taught to do. They defend themselves. No, I didn't mean it. That's not what I was trying to say. You misunderstood me. I swear I'm not like that. It sounds noble, reasonable, fair. But to Niccolò Machiavelli, the brutal yet brilliant political thinker, it's the moment you lose everything. Because the second you defend yourself, you admit you're weak enough to need to. And in power games, perception is everything. If they see you flinch, they don't see a victim. They see blood. This is the brutal law Machiavelli understood before anyone else. The man who defends himself lowers himself, while the man who doesn't forces the world to defend him instead. Let's get one thing straight from the beginning. Defending yourself rarely convinces anyone. What it truly does is shift the power away from you. Because when you justify your actions, you're playing on their field. You're accepting their framing. You're saying, without realizing it, that they have the authority to question you. And once they have that, they own the narrative. Even if you're right, you still look guilty, because only the weak rush to explain. The strong, they let the silence burn. They let the accusation float untouched because they know the real move is this. Turn the accusation into a mirror. Make them doubt themselves. Make them too emotional, obsessed, bitter, unstable. Because the one who speaks first often loses control of the frame, and Machiavelli knew whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. Most people defend themselves because they want to be understood. They believe if they just explain enough, clarify enough, repeat themselves enough, they'll be vindicated. But that belief comes from a place of emotional weakness, not strategy. You don't want clarity. You want control. Clarity is for authority. Control is for power. And power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being feared, respected, and untouchable. So when someone calls you arrogant, cold, selfish, manipulative, and you immediately say, "No, you don't understand," you've already lost. Because now you're reacting. Now you're proving you care. Now you've put the ball in their court. And when you do that, you give up the most Machiavellian thing you have. Mystery. Think of the most powerful people you've ever encountered. Not the loudest, not the most liked. The ones who held silence like a weapon. The ones who made you second-guess yourself just by staring. The ones who, when attacked, never flinched. Machiavelli would tell you this. He who explains submits. He who remains silent forces others to fill in the blanks, and they often overestimate him. That's the game. When you don't react, they get uncomfortable. They start doubting their own words. They look around for validation and find none. Suddenly their power shrinks while yours expands because you've done the one thing no emotional person can handle. You made them talk to themselves. And that's how you flip the power. You let their accusation die in the echo of its own weakness. Let's delve deeper into the psychology behind the act of self-defense and the profound power of unexplaining silence. Why is our first instinct to defend ourselves when attacked? It's a primal survival mechanism stemming from the fear of ostracization from the tribe, the fear of being perceived as weak, or the fear of punishment. We want to preserve our image, to be accepted. This is a deep-seated need, intrinsically linked to our ego and self-esteem. When an accusation is made, it's like an arrow aimed directly at our ego. The defensive response is a fight back or explain away reaction to neutralize the perceived threat. However, in the game of power, this very instinct is exploited. The accuser, whether conscious or unconscious, is often seeking a reaction. They want to see you flinch, to see you explain, to see you fall into their emotional trap. Their goal is not necessarily truth, but power. The power to frame the narrative, the power to control your response, the power to feel superior. When you defend yourself, you provide them with the validation they crave. You are proving that their words carry weight, that they can destabilize you. This not only solidifies the accuser's position, but also weakens yours in the eyes of onlookers. These observers do not directly involved or closely watching your reaction. They don't necessarily scrutinize every word of the accusation, but they keenly observe how you handle it. Calmness, self-possession, and non-reaction convey an inherent confidence and superior emotional control. This creates an impression of strength and invulnerability. Conversely, rushing to explain, justify, or display anxiety only reveals weakness and a lack of self-mastery. It signals that you are struggling against a current, and that makes you appear small and vulnerable. Consider the psychology of the accuser when they don't receive the expected reaction. They throw a stone into a pond expecting ripples, but the pond remains still. This creates a psychological effect known as cognitive dissonance. Their brain struggles to process the lack of reaction. They expect you to argue, to become flustered or angry. When this doesn't happen, they begin to doubt themselves, their own words, and even their motives. Did I go too far? Do I look foolish attacking someone who doesn't even flinch? Am I embarrassing myself? The scrutinizing gaze of those around them, coupled with your powerful silence, reflects back onto them, causing discomfort, even confusion. They begin to have an internal dialogue, trying to find an explanation for your silence. And often they will fill that void with assumptions of mystery, strength, or something beyond their comprehension about you. It is very this process that shatters their composure and makes them lose control. As for the observers, they too will undergo a shift in perception. Initially, they might lean towards believing the accusation because it's what was stated. But when you don't react, a significant question arises in their minds. Why isn't he reacting? Does he know something we don't? Is he above this? Did that attack just make him stronger? Your silence isn't an absence. It's a powerful presence, an unspoken statement that you are not on the same level as the accuser, that you don't need to justify yourself. It creates an aura of mystery and confidence, something ordinary people yearn for, but rarely achieve. They begin to see you through a different lens, not as the one attacked, but as the one controlling the game. Human psychology inherently seeks leadership and strength. When you don't flinch under pressure, you embody these qualities. It creates a vacuum that others will willingly fill with respect and awe rather than contempt or doubt. Ultimately, the act of self-defense often stems from a fear of being misunderstood. We feel that
The core power principle that Machiavelli grasped and that we are exploring today is whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. But what exactly is this frame? It's not just a physical setting or a simple conversation. The frame is the entire system of perception, the lens through which everyone interprets reality. It's the dominant narrative, the psychological paradigm within which all interactions occur. When you defend yourself, you unconsciously accept the frame set by the accuser, a frame where you are presumed guilty and in need of justification. You are playing by their rules, on their turf. This is a concession of power from the very outset. Machiavelli understood that power is not objective truth. It is what people believe about you, and this belief sometimes is stronger than 1,000 arguments. When you remain silent, you create a vacuum. The human mind abhors a vacuum. It will automatically fill that void. And interestingly, when confronted with self-possessed silence, the mind often fills that void with assumptions of strength, depth, and even potential danger. Silence is not an absence of information. It is a powerful signal, an invitation for others to draw their own conclusions, and often they will draw conclusions that work in your favor, because humans tend to respect what they don't fully comprehend. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. This famous Machiavellian quote reflects the essence of power. Love can be fickle, human emotions are easily swayed, but respect, and particularly caution, are more solid foundations for power. When you don't defend yourself, you automatically generate a degree of caution. Others don't know what you will do, think, or how you will react. Unpredictability, not erratic behavior, is a higher form of power. The predictable person is easily manipulated. The unpredictable person is respected and avoided. The ultimate goal of this principle is to achieve untouchability. When you are unaffected by petty accusations, you rise above trivial squabbles. You become a force of nature, an immovable fortress that no one can destabilize with mere words. Your silence becomes weight, an invisible yet palpable gravitas that makes your presence more potent than any words. It makes the accuser feel the burden of their own words reflecting back onto them, the burden of having to prove their accusation true when you are not cooperating in proving it true. This burden over time erodes the accuser's confidence, making them appear increasingly weak and futile in the eyes of others. Your aura is not a loud boast. It is a powerful stillness, a chilling composure. It is built by consistently refusing to engage in futile arguments, by maintaining your self-possession when others lose control. Imagine being at the center of a storm. Everything around you is chaotic, but you stand firm, chillingly calm. That very stillness is the source of true power. It is power that comes not from reacting, but from not reacting. It is the power of controlling the perceptual space around you, controlling how others perceive you, even as they attempt to define you with accusations. It is an unspoken declaration that you are on a different level, above the trivialities of ordinary disputes. And this is not merely a tactic to win an argument, but a life principle to dominate any situation, to define reality on your own terms rather than being defined by it. It is the art of turning invisibility into a weapon, transforming silence into a formidable roar. Let's delve into specific tactics which undeniably may seem ruthless but are incredibly effective in flipping power dynamics. 1. The art of silence. This is the default tactic, the first and most potent weapon. When accused, your initial response is not words, but stillness. Execution. Do not rush to reply. Hold a brief pause, just 2 to 3 seconds. Your gaze should be calm, unwavering, sweeping across the accuser's face, then perhaps drifting to the onlookers, as if you're assessing the situation rather than being affected by it. Your body should remain relaxed, not tense, no furrowed brows, no snare. A subtle, almost imperceptible smirk might play on your lips, indicating amusement or even slight pity for the other's lack of control. Lean back slightly, conveying ease and self-possession. Your silence is not agreement, but a refusal to participate in their game. It's like throwing a stone into a bottomless well. The accuser expects a reaction, an echo. When there's none, discomfort consumes them. They start doubting their own words. Did I say something wrong? Why isn't he reacting? Are my words ineffective? Your silence reflects back onto them, forcing them to confront the emptiness and futility of their actions. Onlookers are also affected. They will wonder, why is he silent? Does he know something secret? Is he too great to react? Your silence is filled by their own speculation in a way that often amplifies your mystery and power. 2. The inverted mirror, inversion. Instead of defending yourself, you turn the accusation into a mirror reflecting back on the accuser, exposing their own insecurity. Execution, when called arrogant, manipulative, or fake, instead of denying, you calmly say, "Strange, confidence makes people so uncomfortable, doesn't it?" Or, "Only people who can't be influenced say that." Or, "Everyone says that when they stop getting what they want." Or simply, "If that's how you see it." Impact. The attacker is caught off guard. They expect you to fight back, or at least be flustered, but you don't. Instead, you expose their underlying motive, their insecurity, their lack of control, their frustration. You don't argue the accusation. You explain it by placing it within a new frame related to them. This not only neutralizes the attack, but makes the accuser feel as if they are publicly exposing themselves, causing them to lose confidence and power instantly. 4. Narrative redirection or distortion. When attacked online, instead of defending, reframe the accusation into a badge of honor. Execution. When someone calls you toxic or manipulative, instead of posting a lengthy defense, you post, "People always call you dangerous when they can't control you." Or, "Strength is often misunderstood as selfish by those who lack it." Impact. You didn't defend. You reframed the accusation into an emblem of power. The accuser looks bitter, and you look unfazed. The audience begins to question who is truly in control of the narrative. This isn't damage control. This is narrative dominance. You don't change the truth. You change its meaning. 5. Precision cuts, short closing phrases. Use brief definitive statement to end the argument. Execution. When questioned, instead of elaborating, use phrases like "noted," "okay," "think what you like," "time will tell," or, when subtly attacked, "is that how you see it?" delivered with total serenity. Impact. These phrases close the door on debate. They don't invite further argument. They end the scene definitively, asserting your control over the rhythm and the frame.
They are an unspoken statement that you have no time for petty arguments, and that you don't need to explain.
The moment Mr. Thorn's words fade, you do not flinch. There is no emotional reaction on your face, no anger, no anxiety, not even discomfort. Instead, a subtle, almost imperceptible smirk, one of amusement, or perhaps even a hint of pity, plays at the corner of your lips. You lean back slightly in your chair, appearing even more relaxed, as if his words were merely background noise, unworthy of your concern. Your gaze is calmed, unwavering, looking directly at Mr. Thorn for a second, then slowly sweeping across the entire room, meeting the eyes of each board member as if you were reading their thoughts. You hold that silence for 2 seconds, 2 seconds that feel like an eternity in the tense atmosphere of the boardroom. The entire room holds its breath. All eyes are on you. Then you turn back to Mr. Thorn, not with anger, but with an almost curious, detached look. Your voice remains calm, no faster in tempo, no higher in pitch. You deliver a concise statement, without defense, without explanation, simply a redirect. Mr. Thorn, thank you for that interesting perspective. Perhaps you'd like to share with the board your alternative strategy for this quarter's growth. Or even more chillingly, let's hear your strategy then. The aftermath, a spectacular power flip. Mr. Thorn was prepared for an argument, a confrontation. He had envisioned you flustered, explaining and defending yourself. But you refused to play his game. You not only neutralized the attack, but shifted the burden of responsibility back onto him. Suddenly, he is the one put on the spot, forced to present, to justify, to perform before the board. Everyone's gaze now shifts to Mr. Thorn, not to you. He is under pressure. He begins to stammer, fumbling for words, perhaps appearing less prepared than expected. His confidence wavers. You did nothing but maintain your composure and deliver a brief statement, but your act of not reacting spoke volumes louder than any defense ever could. You are not on my level. Your words cannot touch me. You transformed Mr. Thorn from the attacker to the attacked, from the questioner to the questioned. The result? You didn't just win the argument. You fundamentally altered the power frame in the room. You demonstrated absolute self-possession, an ability to control your emotions and the situation that no one else could match. Your credibility was solidified, not by words, but by your stillness and strategic action. This was not damage control. This was narrative dominance. Accusations and judgments, whether overt or subtle, always carry a negative emotional frequency. They are designed to disrupt, to provoke a reaction, to draw you into a dance of justification and insecurity. But Machiavelli taught us that it is in the refusal to engage in that dance, in your silence, that true power flourishes. Remember, you are not trying to make others like you. You are trying to make them respect you, wary of you, and ultimately to obey you. The powerful phrases used in this script are not merely arbitrary words. They are psychological tools designed to emphasize the profound impact of refusing to defend oneself. They evoke a sense of brutality, but also liberation. Feel the seeing blood,
It's the primal recognition of the predator when the prey flinches. When you defend, you expose a wound. When you're silent, you are an immovable bronze statue, impervious to harm. Visualize the silence burns. It's not a dead silence. It's an active silence, an invisible fire that consumes the accuser's confidence, making them squirm in their own discomfort. Think about being untouchable. It's not apathy, it's a state of being, an aura cultivated by absolute self-possession. When you cannot be swayed by words, you become a formidable mountain, uneroded by petty storms. When you refuse to justify, you are executing a power judo throw. You use the very emotional energy they throw at you and turn it into their public collapse. You don't fight back with force, but with finesse, by leveraging their momentum to make them fall. Machiavelli's phrase, "the turn of the blade," is not just a metaphor, it's a strategic principle. Do not meet the sword with a shield. Let the attacker fall on his own blade. When they attack you, they swing their sword. If you parry, they can keep coming. But if you step aside and let them lose their balance, they will impale themselves. And the failure of chasing innocence admits guilt. This is a profound paradox. When you are so eager to prove your innocence, that very act implicitly acknowledges that there is a guilt to be proven, a court where you must stand to defend yourself. It grants others the role of judge, and you the defendant. The true strategist will never play that game. Instead, he appears too composed to be shaken, too elevated to care, too clear on his position to need to explain it. Consider more deeply the distinction between a good reputation and a strong reputation. A person with a good reputation is expected to be clean, soft, agreeable, and universally liked. They are easily manipulated by their need for approval. When accused, they rush to explain, to rectify, because they fear losing the crowd's approval. This makes them vulnerable, easily controlled. Conversely, a person with a strong reputation is not always liked or blindly trusted. He might be controversial, might make others uncomfortable, but no one dares to move casually against him. Why? Because his reputation isn't based on what people believe about him, but on what he fears he might do next. That's what happens when you never defend yourself. Your reputation becomes something mysterious, unpredictable, and formidable. It's not a delicate flower that needs protection. It's an unmovable boulder. The trap of self-defense lies in the illusion of clarity and control it creates. We think that if we just explain well enough, everyone will understand and everything will be fine. But in reality, the more you explain, the more insecure you appear, the more easily shaken you seem. Silence, on the other hand, creates a space for speculation, and the human mind, when left without an explanation, tends to fill that void with positive assumptions of strength and mystery. People will automatically assume you must be dangerous. You must know something they don't. You must be so secure in who you are that you don't even blink when challenged. And it's that assumption, not your words or your proven actions, that makes people follow you, respect you, and even fear you. Machiavelli didn't care about being good. He cared about being in control. And the one who never defends is always in control of perception, even when surrounded by lies and accusations. They don't live in defense, they live in definition. They define their image, they define their tone, they define their silence, and people feel that. They feel the certainty behind their eyes, the calmness in their posture, and the danger